Stormy kind of afternoon. The kind of afternoon that makes you wish you had a hot drink and a cold woman. Wait a minute. Maybe I got that wrong. Anyway, it was Denver, Colorado, so the weather was bound to change any minute. And change it did, for the better, as we visited best-selling author Clive Cussler at his great car collection. Today we'll find out more about the man and a few of his classic automobiles. Clive, tell me a little bit how you got into collecting cars, how long you've been doing it, and some of your favorites. And it seems like you're heavily into the classics and maybe the 50s cars.
I think it all started, I was always a car nut. In fact, in high school in California, I'd build hot rods. I had a hot 36 Ford. But after the war, when I was going to high school in the middle 40s, everybody wanted a new car. So as a result, you could buy the old stuff just dirt cheap, or you could even, people would give it away. So I think I picked up, just for fun, for $20, it was a big black 1926 Auburn limousine, and I remember vases in the back for flowers and mirrors. And my buddies and I used to get our dad's old overcoats, because most of us moved from the east, and their old hats when men wore hats, and smoked cigars. And I played the violin. Well, I wouldn't say I played it. I ruined it when I was young, and of course it was a disaster. So the violin went up in the garage someplace when I was about 12 years old. So I pulled that down, threw the violin away, and then carried the violin case like it was, machine gun inside. So we'd go to the football games in the Auburn, dressed up as gangsters, and when we'd walk through the guards, at the gate into the stands, they never wised up to the fact that I carried wine and beer in the violin case. So that was really my first kind of classic car. And then I didn't get into collecting until, I guess it was 1974. My wife and I were driving up in the wilds of Colorado, and I just noticed this car on the front yard of this farm for sale. Didn't pay much attention to it. My wife said, "Oh, look, there's a 46 Ford Club Coupe like I had in high school." So I went back and bought it. And my son and I, those were the salad days, we restored the car out in the street, I remember. And I rebuilt everything on it and did everything except the upholstery. And I remember I did the body work, and I even primered it with spray cans. And then took it into a shop and had it painted. And it's up here at the 46 Ford. It's the first one of the collection.
I think most of us can identify with that procedure. Now, the way we became acquainted with you was, of course, through your books. And you've got a lot of books out there, and some very exciting books. And in a lot of the books, you weave in some of these great cars, the classics and others. And that's the way we found out about you, through that way. We thought, well, this guy must be a car collector. And how many different cars have you gotten into your books?
Oh, I guess I started right. I think the first book, Pitt drove a Shelby, a Cobra. And I guess I was into about the sixth book before it occurred to me, since Pitt drives all these old cars, we should drive the same cars. So then I started using my cars in the books and photographing them on the back. And I thought that was more fun, particularly on the back jacket, because most authors have this exotic studio portrait, usually taken 10 years earlier. So I thought people would be more interested in the car than me, so I put the car up front and I stand in the background.
Now, you mentioned Pitt, of course. Anybody that's not familiar, or I don't see how they couldn't be, but Dirk Pitt, of course, is the character that comes back. He's the action hero of the books. We noticed a Stutz back here. That's the same one that was in the book Dragon? Right.
Mm-hmm. And then I have a Talbot Lago over here that was in Deep Six. I blew the car up in the book, and I was amazed. I had 4 or 5 letters from people saying, "Did you really blow the car up?" No, it's alive and well and living in a warehouse in Colorado. So, but it's fun. People seem to enjoy it.
The way I understand it, you've got another new book coming out in a month or so, and it's going to be called what?
It'll be called Flood Tide, and in that book, Pitt is chased in the Duesenberg through Washington, D.C., drives across the mall, and then he even cuts across the reflection pond. And I had to have somebody go out and measure it, the water and the wall, to make sure that, the tires could get over it. And so it's always fun to research out and use a car in that instance.
Yeah, because if you didn't do that, you would get letters, right, from people
sure,
saying, "Oh, that's."
oh no, it's 6 feet deep. You couldn't have done it, you know. So.
Now, is this the same Duesenberg we're going to see today?
Right. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned a few of the cars in here have some interesting backgrounds to them.
The 1931 Marmon V16 was purchased by Mrs. Brandeis, who was the wife of Judge Brandeis of the Supreme Court. And she had it painted white, from what we gather, in a kind of a dusty rose, and then gave it to the judge on his birthday. And it caused a big family uproar. He took one look at the car, you know, and the colors and everything, and he says, "I refuse to drive to the Supreme Court in a courtesan's car," as he put it. And so they didn't know what to do, and they had 2 daughters. One of them was kind of an activist for her day, so she gave it to this president of the Havana University, who was fighting, you know, for the Spanish and the local, you know, dictatorship they had there. And he eventually became president for about 6 months before then. I think it was Trujillo became president. And 2 Texans found the car in a garage, and the wood was all eaten out by termites, and brought it over and put the wood in. Then they sold it to Jimmy Lake, who sold it to somebody else, and finally I wound up with it.